What's up, everybody, and welcome back to A Beer a Day with TK. It's Wednesday afternoon here in Findlay, Ohio, so you know what that means? WTF Wednesday. For those of you who may be new to the program, WTF Wednesday is a one day a week when I showcase beers I probably wouldn't drink otherwise on the show. So sometimes that means I do macro stuff, so some of the stuff from Bud, Miller, Labatt, whoever it might be. Sometimes I just do strange offerings from smaller breweries. So you may remember the Ernest Brewworks wine beer hybrid, and anything else in between. I guess it's kind of just not stuff I regularly drink. So today I actually have Yuengling Black and Tan. So Yuengling is a beer that's getting a lot of notoriety lately. I've probably talked about this many times. I think this will be the 6th video I've done on Yuengling beers. So I did traditional lager, I did the Hershey's Porter, I did the Screaming Eagle Mango, which was not a fan of that one, the Light Lager, and the Flight, which was their locale offering. So the one thing you'll probably notice is most people are aware of Yuengling. Now, I know it doesn't have nationwide distribution at this point. I know they're working on it, building other production facilities, but they're pretty ubiquitous. You can find Yuengling in a lot of places now. And the one thing that's always kind of blown my mind is the hate that Yuengling gets. I really don't understand it. To me, Yuengling is kind of a historical brewery. They're obviously the oldest brewery in America, and they survived Prohibition. They've done a lot of really cool stuff. And for me, it was one of the first breweries that I was aware of that had a line of beers. So growing up, most of the people I knew drank whatever maybe their father or grandfather had sitting around, which meant Bud, Bud Light, Miller Lite, Coors Light, Busch, stuff like that. Nothing too crazy. I've talked about it before. I was a little more fortunate. My dad's from England, so he tended to drink a little bit better beer. But even with that, the only stuff I ever saw around was maybe Guinness or Harp, or I used to drink Carlsberg Elephant once in a while, not a particularly good beer. But, things like that. Where Yuengling, on the other hand, was the first brewery I knew that had multiple offerings. So, back when I was introduced to Yuengling, they had the traditional lager, the premium, the porter, black and tan, Lord Chesterfield's ale, and I'm probably forgetting something else. But they had about 5 or 6 offerings. Now they do a lot more. They do an Oktoberfest. They have a Bock beer once in a while. They have all this range of light beers and the weird Raging Eagle mango flavored abomination. I get what they're doing. They're trying to reach out and compete with the other folks. But I don't consider them the same as the small microbreweries that are really doing high quality top end stuff. They're more, maybe a better macro brewer. They're obviously not quite as big as Bud, Miller, Coors, all that kind of stuff, but they are at this point probably macro brewery. And I think if I compare them to those other beers, I think they do a pretty good job. But nonetheless, they do get a lot of hate, and I'm sure I'll get hate for this beer whether I like it or don't like it. So it's kind of a bit odd. Anyway. When I looked this up, it says that it's a black and tan, but when you do a little research, Yuengling actually says it's modeled after an English half and half. And this is a combination of 2 of their beers. It says porter and premium beer. So I've had the porter, and I'm sure lots of people have seen the porter where they are. The premium beer is probably one you don't see as much. When I was in college, Yuengling Premium was the one that I drank most of the time. Yuengling, the traditional lager, is the most famous beer they do. But the other one was slightly cheaper. So you could get the premium for, I've talked about this before, kegs cost about the same as Milwaukee's Best. So for me, it was a no-brainer. I'd rather drink Yuengling than Milwaukee's Best. Probably rather drink toilet water than some of the cheap beers that you can get while you're in college. And this is a combination of those 2 beers. This is not a combination of porter and their traditional lager. I read a lot of reviews online, people talking out their ass, saying, oh, the traditional lager, blah, blah, blah. It's not made with traditional lager, Chief. This is made with the premium beer, which is something different. You probably haven't seen it. So for those bashing it, saying, oh, it tastes like the premium, tastes like the traditional lager, it's not. It's not even remotely the same thing. The beer that you get, the premium, I think they refer to it as premium beer, is actually a Pilsner. And it's not a bad beer. It's not a great beer by any stretch of the imagination, but it is, it is something a little different, and you don't see it as frequently as you see traditional lager. So this is a combination of those 2 beers, the porter and the traditional. Now, again, when I was in college, I was a bartender, and I remember the first time I was introduced to half and half, some black and tans and all those kinds of things. I thought they were really a unique way of pouring beer. So if you were fortunate enough to go to a place that had Guinness on draft, for me as a younger man in my 20s, I'd always order either a black and tan or a half and half, depending on what they had available. So if you're dealing with the black and tan, it's usually going to be Guinness and Bass, right? And the half and half is going to be Guinness and Harp. Now, for a lot of people of Irish descent, myself included, the black and tan may have some negative connotations, right? Obviously, the black and tans don't have a great history when it comes to looking at the suppression of the Irish people and things like that. So a lot of people would opt for the half and half instead. So I'm not going to get political on it. I've had both. And I still have, to this day, one of these little devices. This is put out by Bass. They call it a brolly, B-R-O-L-L-Y. In England, an umbrella is a brolly. And I guess this is speculation on my part. I always thought it's called a brolly because when you put it on the glass, first you pour in the light beer, whether it be the Harp or the Bass on the bottom, and then you pour the Guinness over the top, and it kind of pours out the little holes that are around the sides of this triangular device here. And I guess it kind of rains down, right? I mean, I always thought that's why it was called a brolly, because it's kind of like an umbrella, and you see the rain coming off the edges. Now, what it does is stops the beer from all mixing together. So if you pour it correctly, you have that nice separation between the two beers. So I still had this sitting around. Can't say I couldn't tell you the last time I made a black and tan with this device. I think I bought it in a gift pack years ago, but I still have it. All right. Anyway, enough rambling. Let's get on to trying this one here. This is 4.6% ABV. 12 IBUs. The ratings aren't bad. On Untappd, it gets a 3.43. Beer Advocate, a 3.25 with a 75% rating of okay. Now, I checked on Untappd. It looks like the last time I had one of these was 2015. So it's been a few it's been a few years since I had one. Now let's look at the color. If you hold it up to the light, it kind of does that. The red color. You hold the Guinness, even though it's dark. When you hold it to the light, you kind of get a red hue to it. I think it kind of does the same thing here. It looks quite dark to the eye, but once you put it up to the light, kind of that ruby red. Head, it's a little bit thin. It's kind of tan colored, and probably half of a finger, and it's dissipated kind of quickly. Now, what's kind of odd, and when I first started drinking these, I always thought it was a bit weird. One of the cool things of the black and tan or half and halves was that separation. And obviously you don't have it if it's all mixed together in one bottle. So you kind of lose, I think, the visual appeal of presenting somebody with a black and tan or a half and half. But it is what it is. If you want to enjoy the flavor and don't want to go through the theatrics, I guess you can buy it pre-mixed in one bottle. Let's give it a sniff. Kind of pick up a little bit of roasty malt. And kind of like a dark chocolate smell. It's not bad. It's not a strong smell, but it's pretty decent. Just give it a taste. Been a minute, right? Say medium bodied, kind of smooth. I would say you pick up, the first thing you kind of pick up is a little bit of dark malt again, the roasted malt. You might get a tiny bit of hops in there. Like it's only 12 IBUs. You don't really pick up a whole heck of a lot of it, but you do get a tiny little bit of, a little bit of that bitterness or hoppiness. But I think the thing that I like the most is you kind of get a chocolatey taste. And for me, the bitterness and the bitterness from that tiny bit of hops and that chocolatey malt taste when they mix together is quite nice. Probably get a little bit of a caramel taste in there as well. It's not a bad beer. Not a bad beer at all. Now, if I could have this or a proper half and half or black and tan, which would I choose? I would choose, the OG, the original. I'd go for the theatrics, right? And on top of it, I mean, come on, Guinness is a superior kind of dark beer, at least in my mind, especially if we're mixing it. So, I'd obviously go with that. But all things being equal, is this a bad beer? Not at all. Not at all. It's nice. It's a nice option if you want to try something like this. If you're not quite a fan of porters or stouts, you want something a little bit dark, but not maybe all the way down that path, this isn't a bad option. And I think it, like I said, it tastes pretty decent. It's nothing spectacular, not the greatest beer I've ever had, but if somebody gave me one of these, I would certainly drink it. I have no problem with it. I picked up a 12-pack of these because I haven't had it in a while, and my wife went over to Walmart and they didn't have much of a selection, so I said, just grab it and they'll get drunk eventually. So, Yuengling Black and Tan, I would drink another one of these for sure, and I have 11 more to follow, so I guess I'll have to drink them in the next couple days or the next week, whatever happens. If you liked the video, please give me a thumbs up, hit that like button. If you want to see more videos like this, please hit subscribe. And as always, you got any comments or questions, jump in down below. If you've had the Black and Tan, or you had the Yuengling Premium, let me know what you think of it. Hey, till next time, cheers!